Alongside Brent Hubbs, I'm Austin Price. 2-minute drill on this Tuesday. Brent, you listened to Brian Jean-Marie talk, and it's pretty clear that there's a different level of buy-in on the defensive side with Jeremy Banks, with even Juwan Mitchell, who's not going through full spring. He's just kind of partial.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded today like Brian Jean-Marie kind of channeled his inner Rodney Garner a little bit when he addressed the media. He was very candid about things today. Not that he hasn't been in the past, but he was very candid about Juwan Mitchell and a year ago, even before the injury, about his transition here and how difficult it was for him, and the buy-in wasn't where it needed to be. It is now, even though he's not 100%. Similar, talking about Jeremy Banks, who did not go through spring last year, but he talked about how Banks has got to continue to do the right things, with the officials. He talked about that and how he's cleaned some of those things up. Sounds like Banks is continuing to try to lead that group as well there. And then on Elijah Herring, he likes some things that he's done, but made it very clear he's a very green, growing freshman.
Yeah, I mean, again, he said we're not going to throw him fully in the deep end, but we're also not going to just let him get in at the steps either. Just can't afford to. The one person that did draw praise from Roman Harrison was Jeremy Banks, and talked about the growth, how it's showing he's more of a leader this spring than he ever did 1 year ago. Yeah,
and look, but because Banks is out there practicing, Beasley's out there practicing. I mean, you look at the guys that they played with last year. Brian Jean-Marie didn't know who they were until midsummer, really. I mean, he had never seen them practice, never had their hands on. Life is very different for that linebacker group. It's creating some competition in that room. I think it's it's helping create the buy-in, because some guys had success, and he's got a full room of guys to really work with and build depth on.
As for Jayla Mccullough, he weighs the same, but his body's totally different.
Yeah, I mean, and I noted this, I think, on a podcast and some other things that we've done. He looks leaner, so I asked him today, did you lose weight? He's like, no, actually, I'm heavier. And I'm like, you look leaner. He said, I lost multiple percentages of body fat. I mean,
like 10% body fat.
10% body fat. And I said, ask him how he did it. And he just said, just a little more conscious of his diet, and just kind of went that way for him. He looks better, says he feels better, feels like he's moving better at this point. So we'll see. I mean, we joked with him about needing some tapioca pudding because he's been here so long. He's got a couple more years of eligibility. Seasoned guy who, again, I think the buy-in's there, and realize at the end of the season he's got to amp his game up. And part of that's getting quicker, and to do that he's got to lose some of that body fat, which he's done.
One big-time recruit on campus, 4-star Tony Rojas, here today. He was here yesterday, taking in practice today, and we hope to catch up with him later this afternoon. Go ahead.
I was going to say one more thing too. We bumped into Jaylen Hyatt, had a little conversation with Jaylen Hyatt. We talked about his buy-in. He drew some praise on Saturday. I think the veteran Velus Jones' success is a big help for where Jaylen Hyatt is right now. Pound for pound, nobody looks more different on this team right now than what Jaylen Hyatt looks like.
Yeah, showed back up on campus in January at 164, currently at 184. Has a chest. Just kind of had a sternum last year. Pretty impressive. I will say this, Hubbs. You had Heupel come out and say you could play in the secondary a few weeks ago. Now you had Brian Jean-Marie mention that you could play in the linebacking core last spring. So, I mean, it's pretty clear you've changed your body to go from linebacker one spring to defensive back the next spring. He's Brent Hubbs. I'm Austin Price for the 2-minute drill.
Go ahead.